Today we're going to talk through the dark side of sports card investing, specifically focused on prospecting and speculation. This is off the back of the recent Ja Morant, scandal, if you want to call it that. There's a few things there that I want to talk to that I don't think get talked to enough within the hobby that I'm hoping can hopefully make you guys a bit better when it comes to buying and selling cards yourself. Now, essentially, the key focus of this video is going to be on prospecting and speculation. And the one thing I want you to try and take away from this is that if you go think about the Halloween season, right? You don't want to be the one trying to sell pumpkins after Halloween is already finished. And that's the mindset I've always had with regards to sports cards, i.e. speculation. Yeah, it's fun to try and be involved with, but a big problem within the hobby right now is so many vloggers and content creators and influencers are telling you that prospecting and speculation is the way to go, right? You want to be out there paying big money for these players that really haven't achieved anything in their career. You're paying top dollar for these sorts of things that far outweigh what, proven players are getting, seasoned players are getting. And more often than not, it doesn't work out. You don't want to be the person holding the bag. And there are so many things that could come out of nowhere, like this Ja Morant situation, right? He's done something, incredibly stupid on social media. And I don't want to talk through the details on, my own personal opinions or anything like that on the situation. But from the grand scheme of things, it is something that's dumb, right? Because now you're going to have people reacting to that news. And we're already seeing that with regards to his prices come down significantly. So if you're somebody that's trying to speculate on Ja Morant in the long run, you've got now cards that are not really worth anything. And you go to social media and everybody's making fun of these people that were still holding the Ja Morant cards. But it's not just things that happen off the pitch. A player could break their leg. They could get hit by a car. They could have something ridiculous happen in their lives that mean they can no longer play the game of basketball. Which means what? Their prices of cards are going to come down because they've not achieved anything. When you're talking about someone like Luka Doncic, who's, rookie Prism Black 1 of 1, has the $1.5 million bounty on it, what would he have to achieve in his career for that $1.5 million price? And let's assume it does get paid, if it does get found. What would he have to achieve in his career in order for that price to maintain its value? The guy's not done anything in his career. Like, you've got players out there like LeBron, Jordan, Curry, Klay Thompson, Bill Russell, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson. These guys have proven they've won their titles, yet their prices don't go anywhere near what we're seeing for the likes of, Doncic, Jason Tatum, a few of these other players, LaMelo Ball. It's just absolutely crazy prices out there, and it doesn't get talked about enough. Like when you're having a conversation between friends, your common sense tells you these prices are ridiculous. But so many people appear to be going to card shows and in these vloggers' content are out there focusing and purely in this space. It just doesn't make sense from a risk appetite perspective. And I talk about it, being the dark side of sports card investing because so much of the narrative is in that space. It's sort of like the elephant in the room that, nobody wants to address, everybody wants to ignore because they all pretend that it's not a thing because they want to buy the card themselves to flip and then make that money. And I've spoken about before on this channel, a really good analogy to sports cards is the watch space, right? Luxury watches. And Roman Shaft talked about, who has a really big YouTube channel that I put on screen right now, talked about how he reasoned the prices of sports cards getting to where they were because they weren't really getting into the hands of end consumers. There was all these customers that wanted to buy these watches from dealers. So dealers were constantly buying and selling between each other, pushing the price up, but never truly getting realized. And you sort of see that in the sports card space as well, because, there's these rookie cards that are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars, but they're not actually getting in the hands of the person that actually wants to collect that player or collect that team or keep it, for their shelf. It's just purely going between people that are trying to flip these things, which keeps pushing these prices up. They're not realized, which means the prices are somewhat artificial. And that sort of works if you keep getting people coming into the hobby. But the dark side of this is, something's going to happen to a player and they've not achieved anything to date, and that price is going to come flying down. And you're some poor average Joe that spent money on something because you saw it on social media or because you've seen at a card show that the general consensus amongst people is to be doing these sorts of things. Then you get stuck holding the bag because all of a sudden, like that, nobody gives two shits about that player anymore. And that's a very scary concept, and it's just worrying that so much of the narrative, so much of the mindset within the hobby is focused in on that. And it is the dark side of sports card investing because it's not wise to be trying to do that sort of stuff. Now, I understand speculation and prospecting is a lot of fun when products get released, but this becomes a bigger problem as players have played more seasons because the more seasons they go without winning anything, the less likely they are to actually achieve anything. Like, what does Luka Doncic have to do? What does Jason Tatum have to do? What does a few other players that I literally, my mind's going blank, but what are these players that people are speculating and prospecting on really hard have to achieve in order to be worth the money that you're currently paying, right? Like, Luka would have to win 10 rings. He hasn't won one yet, right? It's just so freaking crazy to me. And again, it makes sense to have things in your portfolio if you want to be an investor to sort of outweigh the risk. You need to have some high value items, some low value items, because you want to try and get those big returns, those little returns. You need to be stable. You need to be smart with your approach, maintain an appropriate risk appetite, right? But not many people are doing that. So many people are just focused in on speculation and prospecting. You know, I've been so excited to see Sports Card Radio talk about their buying and selling lately, because they're doing things that I've been doing my whole life, and that is, you know, buying low value cards in high volume to flip. And they're doing it to make money, but I do it to fund my PC, i.e. I buy an expensive card, I buy a bunch of other cards, I sell all those little cards to eventually pay for that PC item. So technically it cost me $0 for my collection, but not a whole lot of people do that. I spoke about it in a few recent videos where I've tried to make content like that and educate people, but nobody watches it. So I'm good to see, or I'm happy to see, I should say, a big channel start doing it, because that might get some buy-in from more people and tell you, you know, speculation and prospecting is fine. That's not the be-all end-all, right? You can do some of that, but maybe do that on the side to an extent, as much as you can, but then also have this smaller stuff to try and make your buying and selling a bit more stable. It's just shocking that so many of these vloggers and content creators are primarily only targeting this high-end stuff, which then tells people to try and do the same thing, and it creates what I consider an artificial market. I just like that Roman Shaft watch example I gave you. I think it's so true what's happening in the sports card space. People are buying and flipping between each other, and they're doing this little circle jerk dance of lies where their guy selling the card knows the card is not worth what the other guy wants to pay, and he's telling him a story to try and get him to buy the card, and then the guy that's buying the card is also telling him the story to try and get the card for a bit cheaper, because then he can buy it and then go ahead and sell it to somebody else and do the exact same thing. I just find it, you know, so incredibly laughable. It happens every day within this hobby, but nobody seems to address it. It's the elephant in the room. It's just utterly crazy. And I think it's dark side of the sports card hobby. You know, sports card investing, focusing in on just speculation and prospecting is not the way to go. And again, this is not financial advice or anything like that. It's purely talking about it to try and educate you, to try and get some discussion going in the comments. Now, apologies if you can hear my dog barking in the background, but it just worries me that so much of this narrative is pushed to try and do this sort of stuff. And then overnight, you can have a player do something so idiotic on the field. You can have, you know, a player get involved in a car accident. He could do his ACL and never play the game again, and they've not achieved anything. Like, do you understand what Luka Doncic would have to do in his career in order to technically surpass Kobe Bryant? Like, it's just crazy. Does he have enough years left to try and do it realistically? Like, he hasn't done squat yet. It's so much money is focused in on this space. It's just utterly crazy to me. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know if I missed anything, or if you think there's anything else I should have talked to within this video. There was a few, you know, talking points that seem to have slipped my mind. But like I said, the key thing to remember is you don't want to be the one selling pumpkins after Halloween is finished. I.e., you don't want to be holding a rookie card of a player that's achieved jack shit in their career, and then they do something on social media and it potentially impacts their career and ability to play basketball in the short term, which then compounds the drastic reduction in pricing we're seeing of their card, right? You need to be thinking about this sort of stuff. Not a whole lot of people are, and the people that aren't talking about this more frequently, and the people that are trying to paint the hobby as being all, you know, daisies and flowers and roses and all this kind of thing, they're trying to paint this narrative because they're trying to either create salacious content to try and get you to watch and paint a fake narrative of what the hobby is actually like, or they're trying to pump the market, or they're trying to market manipulate in some other capacity. And it's pretty evident in my opinion. So please share your thoughts down in the comments below. I think I missed a few other things, so I do apologize. I'll probably put those in a comment if I recall a little bit later on. But thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.